Alright, so we're back with part 2 of the video. Part 1 was getting a little bit too long, so I decided to split this in 2 parts. As a recap, quickly, we've made the side panels, we've made the front in part 1. So we made the side panels of the bag, we've made the front and the back with the accessories on it, and we've also made the flap. So now we're going to work with the lining of the bag, and then we'll put the bag together. Oh, we also made the pocket in the lining. So now grab your flap and place it right sides together and find the center, or wrong sides together, whatever you want, and find the center of the raw edge and mark it. Then you take one of the other lining, the top of the lining, and you want to find its center, and you want to match the bottom. So this is my center of the lining, like right here, and you want to lay this right sides together and pin it in place. Before you stitch, you can double check that it is centered. So I have 4.5 on this side, and I have 4.5 on this side, so it is centered. Don't go by my measurement, because as a reminder, my bag is at 120%. So then I find the center of one of the linings, and I like my pocket with the zipper to be on the back of my bag. And I know the flap will be on the back, so that's why I'm using the flap with the zipper. And I'm going to place them right sides together, matching the center, and the sides will automatically match as well. So this is my little sandwich here with the flap. So I have the top of the lining, the flap, and the main of lining, and I'm going to sew that with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Go slow when you have your flap, because you have quite a few layers over there. Right, and I believe it is top stitched down. Let's see. Yes, it's top stitched with the seam allowance towards the bottom. An 1/8 of an inch away from the opening. Alright, so this is your back lining, and you want to repeat the same steps with the front, but this time you have no flap. It's just the lining piece. Make sure that the narrower part is at the top and the wider part is at the bottom. It's not quite just a rectangle. I use directional prints for the fabric, this, so I know exactly which way to go. But if you haven't, make sure that you put the top at the top. You can also mark it with a pen when you cut your fabric, and put like a little T there at the top. stitch it down with the seam allowance going down. So the lining is done. Set that aside for now with the bottom panels. And let's work on putting together the front and the back of the bag, because now we have 4 panels. So we want to put those together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So this, so it does look like something was off when I printed and changed the value. So whatever, we'll play it by ear and it's still gonna work out. I'm gonna go ahead and use and sew it and then remove the excess. Initially I was thinking of maybe doing adding like a panel for the missing 1.5 inches, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna remove the excess and figure out later on what I did wrong when I cut. I think I have an idea what I did wrong, but I'm not 100% sure. I think when I did, because I initially printed the pattern at 100%, and then I changed my mind, and I might have cut accidentally the piece that was 100% for the front panel, and then the rest of the other ones correctly. So that's my thought, that that's what I did. Because see, this should have matched at the top here. So I think my front panel might be the piece that's 100%. Oh well, it's okay, because we know how to fix it. We're just gonna remove the excess on the side panel, and then if we need to adjust the lining too, we're gonna cut at the bottom, and boom, it's done, fix. So I need to make sure I go through my pattern pieces and just write on them which one is 100% and which one is 120, because I think that's the mistake that I've made when I cut. It's not horrible. Like, I'm just gonna take my rotary cutter and just cut this excess here. I do need to make sure that I have at least 1/2 inch seam allowance left here for when I sew the top of the bag, but no big deal otherwise. There you go. So easy peasy lemon squeezy, perfect. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side and just remove the excess. So moral of the story today is, if you print both 100% and 120 or whatever, make sure you separate them. I'm assuming that's the error that I did. I'm assuming that's what it is. If it's not, then I don't know. I have to figure it out. That's what happens when you alter patterns. Alright, let me top stitch everything first. Is it top stitching towards the inside or the outside? Okay, so top stitching towards the side panels like this. If I leave it like this right now, it's easier to top stitch in the flat and only one in the round after you've sewn like the circle together. if I were to make this, I would have had to top stitch 4 times in within the circle. Let's see. Okay, so 2 words. One more, and then we're gonna close the loop and add the bottom. But man, this is so pretty. Alright, so now let's close the loop and then cut the excess. Given that everything else matched perfectly, my theory is that I mixed up the pieces when I was cutting it. This makes this a very unique bag. Let me go ahead and cut the excess, and then we're going to add the bottom panel. So actually let me top stitch this first towards the side panel. So this is what I was saying before. It's easier to do just one of these in the loop versus all 4. This bag is by no means perfect, but it's unique and I've enjoyed making it, so hey, it's a win in my book. Okay, so now we're gonna have to add the bottom panel, the bottom of the bag, and we're working with the right side, so that means we're adding the panel that had the Peltex or Decoville Heavy. So I'm gonna put some snips at the center. There are some notches in the panel, I believe, that I did put, but because I put them with a erasable pen when I added my Peltex, it became, it disappeared. Alright, so now let's find the centers of the side panels. And pour a snip. And pour a snip, and then the center of the front and back panels. And then I'm gonna match my snips and sew the bottom with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, right sides together. Some people like to use staples to hold this in place. I'm not a particular fan of staples. So I'm still gonna stick with my pins. And hope for the best. Because that's how I roll. Alright, so now with the bag the bottom all pinned in place, we're gonna sew around with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I like to start on a flat area. And if you need to go slow, go slow. Make sure that you don't have any puckers. And you keep your seam allowance at a 1/2 inch. This is why people put staples, because sometimes the snaps run away while you're sewing. Not snaps, I mean clips. Almost there. This is probably the most difficult part of the pattern. Cut the seam allowance to 1/4 of an inch so it lays nice and flat. When you turn it inside out. Alright, so we're gonna repeat these steps for the lining. Okay, so that's the main part. Now let's repeat the steps for the lining. Alright, so take your lining pieces and the right sides together. Sew the two sides with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, or a little bit over. If you do slightly over 1/2 inch, it will fit better in the bag. That's what happens when you're in a rush. So this bag, I think based on what I see in the tutorial, it's gonna be turned through the top of the bag. I am not sure I like that, to be honest with you. We'll see. I'll do it as per the pattern this time, but next time I might leave an opening in the pocket to birth it through the pocket or on the side here. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do it now. Since I'm going rogue anyway from the pattern with the enlargements, I'm gonna leave an opening on the side. To flip the bag. I'm not a fan when you turn at the top. I don't know, probably because I don't like working on that curve. Alright, so I'm gonna leave that opening over there. Alright, I used red thread so you can see that I left quite the opening on one of the sides. So now I'm gonna again find the center and repeat the same steps. This time it's gonna be easier because there's no Peltex or Decovil. It's just fabric with woven fuse. So this time it should be a little faster to add the bottom. The sides are obvious, so I need the centers of the front and the back. Alright, so right sides together. Actually, I'm not going to open the seam allowance because I left the opening. So just pick one side for the seam allowance. Okay. Alright, and a few pins here. And again, remember it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And just sew around it. Alright, so we have the lining sewn with an opening on the side. Then we have the main. So now with the right side of the lining out, place your lining right sides together inside the bag. Make sure that the flap stays down so you don't catch it, and that the flap goes on the back of the bag. So on the front I know I have my snap, so on the back I'll have the flap. Pin in place, matching at the centers. Make sure that your side zippers are open. So I'm finding the center of the sides. And you're gonna sew around with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And the last thing that we need to add today will be your handles. And pin it in place in a few places. There. Alright, and sew all around the pin with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now, to create your handles, you have two pieces left of the pattern. You have the pieces that are 4 inch by 20. So you would need to find your center line. So 2 inches. And mark your center. Alright, and bring in your sides towards the center. You can use water soluble stabilizer, you can use wash away wonder tape to hold it in place, or you can use some clips. I would not recommend pins when you work with vinyl. So this is a 4 inch wide strip and you want to bring it to make it 1-inch straps. Bring your edge towards the center that you just marked and just press it in place. And flip and repeat on the other side. The double-sided tape just helps hold this in place. Alright, flip one more time. And have a few pins if you want. So this is your 1-inch strap now. Because we did 2 lines of stitching for the accents, I'm going to do 2 lines of stitching for the strap to 1 at 1/8 and 1 1/4 inch away from the edge. So it mimics my accent straps. Alright, so let's do first 1/8 of an inch. And then 1/8 on the other side. I did change my bobbin's thread to red to match this. I didn't forget because I had orange. Now I did 1/4 of an inch and then 1/4 of an inch from the edge on the other side. And that's it. Strap. And of course we put for the other strap. I've already done the other strap. So these are ready to be added to the bag. Let me go ahead and sew that. I'm gonna sew around and then we'll add the straps together. Alright, so I went ahead and sewed the inside, flipped it on the other side through the side opening that we left here. That's the last thing I'm going to close. And then top stitch around. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, top stitch around. So now we have to get the straps that we've made before and just add them to the handles. So I did one side, I'm gonna do the other side right now. You can use rivets to add them in place, or you can use just a line of stitching. I find that for my liking the straps might be too short, but so I'm gonna fold the minimal possible, which is about 3/4 of an inch, and just sew a few times. It's important that you make sure that you don't flip your strap when you put it on the other side. So this is on one side. Make sure you bring it the same way. Put it through the loop and fold it whatever amount you want. These are the standard 20-inch straps. I think next time I'm doing this pattern, I'm going to make this a little longer to be able to put them over my shoulder and not just to hold them like a handle. But yeah, so this is important that this doesn't twist. Go ahead and sew, and this is all done. despite the few snafus along the way, this was a pretty easy sew. I'm sure if I didn't change the size of the printing, everything would have went much more smooth sailing than it did. So I'm gonna go ahead and close the opening there after I check that everything is perfect. And there you go. This is your Harriet tote. It needs a good press from flipping it inside out, so I'm gonna go press it with my ironing machine. And look at this cute side. This is so awesome. I love it. So again, if you want the regular standard size, you won't have the issues that I ran into with the measurements. And it will be a little smaller than this. It will be a fifth smaller than this. But look how adorable. I think it turned out super, super cute. Thank you guys for joining me in my craziness this morning, and for not judging me too much. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. In the meantime, if you can subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification, I would appreciate it. And as always, I'm gonna link everything that I used in the comment of the video. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.